fascinated by this article. I saw this, I'm like, yeah, we have to look at this in more detail, right? We have to look at this in more detail. That I really want to hear what Rusty Davis, who, Matt, he used to know his stuff about Doctor Who, and Stephen Moffat, who does know his stuff about Doctor Who, by Benjamin Cook. He was on the channel. He came into the chat. Man, I have no idea what it's like to be so freakishly obsessed by anybody saying that you're wrong, right? And Benjamin Cook, unlike the bloke who I invited on the channel, I think is a douchebag. But I remember reading an issue of Doctor Who magazine one Sabbath, and it was like, this is Ben Cook's final issue, right? He's moving on. And I held it up and I showed put it on screen. And then, he was back several years later with his tail between his legs. Anyway, he turned up on the stream and commented, I'll pay you $500. He'll put up $500 if you can find that Doctor Who magazine. Look, again, Ben. It's like, I don't need that issue of Doctor Who magazine to prove you're a twat, right? Most people here think you're a twat. But again, twat though you are, still good at your job, right? You know how to do an interview in Doctor Who magazine. Shame it didn't blossom into anything else. Okay. As produced in the mid-70s, Philip Hinchcliffe reshaped Doctor Who forever. Is that fair? Yeah, forever. I mean, I think Doctor Who goes through realignments and reshape. I mean, the fluidity of the format of Doctor Who, which doesn't include queer or trans Doctor Who's, right? I'm sorry, it just doesn't. But the fluidity of the format means it does reinvent itself constantly to stay very, very contemporary. I mean, like, it was on the cutting edge in 1963, and then I think it kind of reinvented itself into a much more cartoony form in its second season, and it reinvented itself with Patrick Troughton. And then it massively reinvented itself with John Pertwee, became very, very contemporary. And again with Tom Baker, right? It was another massive reinvention. And then it kind of like melded into the 80s, right? Until we got Colin Baker, it was super 80s. Did it change it forever? I guess it brought in like a whole steampunk element, right? But I think that was more a cultural zeitgeist more than changing the format of the show. I mean, okay, it changed it that it added a bunch of lore, it redefined Gallifrey, it gave like the 13 life regeneration limit. But I wouldn't really call that changing forever. It changed, certainly. And again, it's very, very obvious in those Big Finish releases they did of the original scripts for like Hinchcliffe and Home stories like Revenge of the Cybermen, which was originally Return of the Cybermen. It was very, very different. It wasn't that different. It was just like, it felt like a Patrick Troughton story, right? Rather than a Tom Baker story. So, whatever. I'm picking at straws, right? I'm picking at straws. Let's have a look. Here's the ultimate God-tier Doctor Who producer. Oh, God. I can't stand it when people who don't believe in God, you reference God, right? It's like, really? Where about him? Philip Hinchcliffe. He didn't justify mid-70s Doctor Who. He carved initials into it with a 17 blade. I mean, he did make great Doctor Who. From androids to antimatter monsters, blah, 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 blah. Philip Segal turns 80, blimey. So, yeah, you got Philip Segal, Rusty Davis, Stephen Moffat, and Chris Chibnall, which is why I really want to read this article. So, and I see people are already running it. Rusty Davis, showrunner, 2005-2010, great. 2023 onwards, shit. And it just is. The character of Doctor Who is shit. Who has any hope or interest in the Christmas special? Not me. And I honestly, I don't see it getting better. I mean, they've already filmed it. I will be very surprised if Disney's going to re-up, but I don't know. What did happen in those years? A real terror rises off the screen. There's a kind of silence and sinisternness that stalks it somehow. Says Rusty Davis, reflecting on Philip Hinchcliffe's seminal 3-season run from 75 Ark in Space to Talons of Weng Chiang. Yeah, okay, it got more, I mean, for want of a better word, bohemian, right? It started being made aimed at students, and it was scarier. right? I think because they changed the nature, because the changing nature of horror, frankly. Did it change? Philip presided over Doctor Who with Tom Baker and a TARDIS full of tales, anchoring BBC's first golden age of Saturday night TV. No, I think 63 was a real golden age of Saturday night TV as well. I don't know how they did it, Russell says of Hinchcliffe and script editor Robert Holmes. They were lucky. It was lightning in a bottle. They got lucky, and they didn't navel gaze either. It was two people with making very good creative decisions working together well. Which is the opposite of what I would say Colin Baker's era was. They did it. Maybe they don't either. Maybe those stories were just honest and good. Well, that's true. They were, right? They were just honest and good. They stuck to their ideals and believed in them. If there were mummies killing people, they're crushing them. If there's a plant strangling people, you could tell the stories of where the Doctor finds robots in the factory and do that forever. But you see Philip and Robert Holmes realizing how much stranger and more fantastic Doctor Who could be. I mean, yes. Again, I think very, very much connected to the cultural zeitgeist, right? Hinchcliffe and Holmes. And I like the way they reinvented classic horror as Doctor Who. I mean, Frankenstein becoming Brain and Morbius, for example. There's a marvelous darkness to those stories, says Rossley Davis. Stark and Soronus. I don't know what Soronus means. And strange and the strange and Dudley Simpson's music. Yeah, the barrenness of it, right, really works, right? Especially in something like Horror of Fang Rock. Oh, I love Horror of Fang Rock. It's such a great story. I mean, who the hell scores television with oboes? Well, they did then, but it fits. Everything fits. Things came together. It fits the studio. If you doubled their budget and made it all on film, I don't think it would have worked as well. Possibly. I mean, that's one of the things I'm not really enjoying about the season 25, like how cheap the video looks. Oh, I can't wait till there's an AI filter that you can run it through that gives it a bit of grain, right? That like turns down the stark whiteness of it. Actually, one of my least favorite episodes is where they go mad on location in part 3 of Deadly Assassin. Well, I mean, that's a very scary episode, right? I got a bit bored during that, and I felt like, oh, clowns and mirrors and run. Yeah, you might be making a good point then. And suddenly it's got a horizon. It's open. But Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes belong in the dark shadows of melodrama and sets and studios. Yeah, it was kind of jarring seeing it was on this much more open landscape. What's more, they did it with an amazing sense of humor. Is it Kondo, the servant of Solon in Brain and Morbius, who opens the door to Doctor and Sarah Jane Smith, played by Liz Sladen, and they're standing there in the rain. And the Doctor says, "Can you spare a glass of water?" Russell West. That really. I mean, somebody has some great lines. It's Frankenstein Castle, but you see these two nutcases turn up. You see Tom and Liz making it work, and Philip Hinchcliffe with the absolute commitment. It's so confident in what it's doing. Yeah, well, it has the confidence of youth, right? Philip Hinchcliffe was young, ambitious, going places, and working with a really massive talent who was also had his anti-establishment dodgy bloke that was Robert Holmes, who used to be a policeman. Weirdly enough. And the casting on Tom Baker is the most phenomenal piece of casting in the show, any show ever. I mean, it really is. Who was up instead of Tom Baker? He was going up against what's the name? The guy from Budgie, who was in Cuthbertson, I think. 1 second. Who else was in the running for the 4th Doctor Who? 1 second. We could be the 4th Doctor. Oh, hang on a second. There we go. This actor considered a part of the Doctor. second Doctor, fourth, Graham Crowden, right? Michael Bentine, I thought they wanted him for the third Doctor, but he wanted to have like a real control over it. Bernard Cribbins, really? That's interesting. Fulton McKay, I thought that was with the third Doctor. Well, I'm probably wrong. Richard Hearn, who I love the way that Capaldi calls the first Doctor Mr. Pastry, which was a reference to that, right? Who was offered the role, but his insistently play the role in the style of the character Mr. Pastry was not acceptable to producer Barry Letts. I mean, Barry Letts was a very different flavor to Philip Hinchcliffe. They are lucky, right? They are very, very lucky. And Jim Dale would have been okay. But Tom Baker, perfect, right? Tom Baker, yeah. I get he came out of nowhere. I think he did these. He'd done the he'd done Nicholas Alexander by then, hadn't he? And the seventh voyage of Sinbad. So, but yeah, he really was a great, perfect casting for the Doctor. Perfect casting for the Doctor in 1970. Was it 1 or 2, whatever? Yeah. No, it'd be 70. What year was it? Season 10 was 73. So yeah, set for the mid to late 70s, perfect casting. Although Philip didn't cast Tom, that was the immediate predecessor, Barry Letts. The income producer ran with it. That's part of the joy enthusiasts, Russell. You know they can see Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes leaning into their greater success, realizing what a lead they have. I mean, I think they probably realized it when they turned up, when he was supposed to have a short scarf, and they knitted it into a massive one, but what's the name? Begonia Poop person knitted the scarf. In fact, Tom and Liz, also cast by Letts, were terrific. They got the casting right twice throughout the history of Doctor Who. That's when miracles happen. I think it's fair enough. Also, a miracle was a very strong script editor, Robert Holmes. Yeah, I love the way Philip Hinchcliffe says, my era wasn't the Philip Hinchcliffe era, it was the Hinchcliffe and Holmes era. And if you hear the Philip Hinchcliffe Presents audios on Big Finish, it's missing Robert Holmes. It's massively missing Robert Holmes. And you can really tell. The man must be rewriting tons of stuff, and it works. But it works because it fits. It fits monsters like Morbius. It fits classics like the Mummy story, the Frankenstein story, the Old Testament. They're great stories because they work. It's all about genius. Genius meets genius. The great producer meets the great great script editor. Yeah. But isn't it frustrating? There's no precise formula for what makes these stories work. No magical. It's magical. Rusty Davis, Russell insists. It's a true. This is true of all great television. What makes Penance from Heaven? That's great. So that's fantastic. You haven't seen it. Work. What makes State of Play work above the other thrillers at the time? Again, I think it's like because of the nature of the way BBC makes TV, you don't know who you're going to get working together on a project. So it was an incredible stroke of luck. You have people with complementary energies working with each other. So yeah, it was magic. I agree with you. Right. But listen, Penance from Heaven. You got Bob Hoskins. You got Dennis Hopper. It's a lot of class there, right? There's a lot of class there. There's alchemy too, although sometimes I think they really kind of did this in the initial revival era of 2000, basically 2005 up till most of the way through Matt Smith, where it was just people working together seamlessly, wanting to do something great, and they really did that. And the difference was in 2005 onwards, they were able to choose who was on their team, right, rather than just being assigned it. With Alchemy Genesis of Daleks, though that could be you use more of a Dalek action. Fine, that's actually a fair point. The Seeds of Doom, the Robots of Death. We can all point. I mean, my favorite is Face of Evil. I love Face of Evil. You can all point to individual stories that work, but Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes strung that out over 3 years and showed no signs of tiring. Yeah, what would it be like with that Merry Whitehouse? Would they have done a fourth year? They probably would have done a fourth year. But would they have done a fifth year is a question. I don't know. I wish whoever the director general at the time was said, I'd like you to do a adult drama of whatever you want to do, 9 p.m. on Thursday, 6 episodes, hour long each, right? I think them doing something science fiction, steampunky, whatever they wanted to do, or for an adult audience in the mid to late 70s, would have been awesome. Oh my God! I wonder if it would have been as huge, culturally as I would like to imagine it would have been. We can't point to individual stories there, but Hinchcliffe Holmes strung over 3. But there was a sustained focus of work imagination that obsessed the imagination of an entire generation since. What? Okay, why do I have a picture of like great Sutek, shit Sutek, great Sutek, shit Sutek? What? Why? Don't sully, with a picture of Empire of Death. God, shit. Ask Russell what he's taken from the Hinchcliffe Phillips era, and of course the answer is quite literally Sutek. But more broadly, what you learn about writing the program making from Hinchcliffe, who I think to be unashamed melodrama. Well, you're certainly not doing that this time around. Often the advice he gets from television is not to be on the nose. And actually, Doctor Who is the opposite. A lot of drama is the opposite. But be on the nose. Say that's terrifying, that's frightening. Say that's funny. Stand under the watering can. But again, don't be on your nose with like having relentless queer representation. And then can you spare a glass of water that made it funny? Again, it was people being good at their job. People being effortlessly good at their job. I think that's really one of the great things about the Hinchcliffe Holmes era. Also, anybody who says boring stuff, like show don't tell. But when it's Marine and Khan talking about the silent gas dirigibles of Houthi, oh God, yeah, that was great. I mean, how many words are that? Silent gas dirigibles of the Houthi, like six words, conjures up horrific and wonderful ideas. If Moraine summed up a laser hologram screen to show us the silent dirigibles, they'll be disappointing. Exactly. And this is an inherent idea of how to use BBC resources to produce greatness, which I think Andrew Cartmel did with in seasons 25 and 26. Right? There'll be ugly zeppelins that look a bit like mushrooms, but they'll let you down. Yeah, I imagine being inside one of these silent dirigibles, right? Of the Houthi felt like felt in our bones. I know it's a really good piece of writing. Is everything you should do, and it works. But Philip was unafraid of backstory. Let's go to Gallifrey. Let's get rid of the companion. Well, he wasn't really happy to do that. He was just trying to make Tom happy. And again, look, when you're a creative person and your job is to be creative and you're good at being creative, you like people throwing you, curveballs, right? And Deadly Assassins are fantastic. It teaches you that it's essentially the Manchurian Candidate on Gallifrey. It teaches you what you like as long as you. It teaches you can do what you like as long as you believe in it. No, Russell, no, that's the wrong lesson. No. Now again, I understand you believe in the queer representation lot, but no. In terms of story, yes. In terms of preaching, no. I learned from so that's what I learned from Philip. Don't follow those boring rules. That's quite a good idea. Also, says Russell, can I just say I love Doctor Who magazine for this. A big 25-page interview with Philip. The reason they're doing this is because there's nothing going on in the current era. They're not filming it. It's done. It's done. And again, I will be very surprised, right? I will be very, very surprised if Disney wants to do a season 3, right? I've been surprised before. Don't know if you're aware of the Candy Jar Lethbridge Stewart series, says Collage. I am. But they have a story that's both a prequel and a sequel to Fang Rock. I never read that. You know why I never read them? A, I'm not a big reader, and B, I didn't like the covers. They should get an AI of Nicholas Courtney to do books on tape for them, right? See people go crazy. Where am I up to? But yeah, okay, look, the reason they're doing this because the current era is a total failure. That's why, and it just seems like we can fill the whole issue up with this. Because while Philip talked a lot, he's also unexamined. Really? I bet he's a wonderful, most loved producer. Literally, there's none finer. And of course, we have to bow to Verity Lambert for setting the whole thing up. God, sometimes magic happens. Look, you can say the thing about Star Trek. Star Trek with lightning in a bottle, right? Both the first cut, both the original series and Next Generation. Less so with Deep Space Nine and Voyager, I would say. Right at that point, it just seemed like they were casting well, and it worked. Don't get me wrong, I like Deep Space Nine. I like the Deep Space Nine crew, right? I like how they interacted with each other, right? But it was that original crew was lightning in a bottle, right? And even though a lot of them hated each other, didn't it? Something twisted and brilliant that burned. Was that the clap? Burn. Wait, was that the end of the sentence? Fine. That's Rosalie Davis. Okay, I'm looking forward to getting to Chris Chibnall. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, she cried. Now, Stephen Moffat could write textbooks on the science of Doctor Who, the alchemy of Doctor Who, right? He understands it so incredibly well. And I think that's probably why his era was I would say the most successful of the modern era, right? This incredible understanding of Doctor Who. Born in November 1961, Stephen Moffat was in his early teens when Hinchcliffe land, blah, blah, blah. I love the show more than ever right then. Okay, fine. Then Stephen would run it from 2010 to 2017. He would return to write Boom, which I found disappointing. I found disappointing because it seemed to have a really nasty anti-religious subtext, which I didn't particularly like. It like most of the series, it seems like a unbridled hatred for anybody who believes in God. Like most of that, like that's what Rusty Davis believes in. Like this unbridled hatred, this dislike of the unlike, right? I really like to come on board as a list-making autist at the beginning of John Pertwee. So Tom Baker was my first new Doctor. And suddenly, everyone in the schoolyard was saying how good Doctor Who was. I mean, it's fantastic. It was immensely exciting. I felt that in 2005, but suddenly Doctor Who was cool, right? You got that a little bit in season 2, in 88, 89, when you had Sylvester McCoy reinvented himself as like this dark, mysterious Doctor, and kids my age, 17, 18, 19, were into Doctor Who again, right? And it was before it fizzled out. But I felt the same way with the TV movie, the McGann movie. Like, wow, Doctor Who, everybody likes it. It's cool, right? And I guess it was the same back then. It was massive, though. I mean, my God, the people, how people loved Tom Baker's Doctor Who. It was, wherever he went, he was swamped by fans, and he loved the role. He was always in costume. Oh God, it was fantastic. Even early Hinchcliffe lights include Ark in Space, obviously, and Genesis of the Daleks, which felt so far ahead of anything we've seen until that point. It was a radical reinvention. I was fighting against that before, but did it change it forever? No, I think Doctor Who does radically reinvent itself to stay contemporary. Right? Man, it could really use a radical reinvention right now. It's a radical reinvention, yet stay true to its core tenets of the central character has to be an anti-authoritarian authority, right? Which I don't think Ncuti or Jody were. Neither of them. They were very authoritarian, and they were not very. They weren't that good. They didn't exude authority at all, but they were authoritarians, and authoritarians, generally speaking, don't have any authority. Space, and we've seen it at that point. I know how there's Dalek in it, which I know makes Russell disapprove of it. But I think the Davros is a very good substitute. It's masterfully done. It's not really a Dalek story. It's more of a story about the Daleks, right? Than a Dalek story. Those Hinchcliffe episodes stood up. Philip boosts the production values. The writing is better and richer. Well, I think he just leaves. I mean, again, the creative talent of him with Robert Holmes just created gold, right? And I loved it was disposable gold, right? This was going out Saturday at 5:30, right? Roughly after Grandstand. The disposableness of it, I think, makes it stronger. I think the same is true with 2000 AD. That was on this cheap paper that that self-destructed. Now I remember, I had. You had to get the comic bags when I started collecting. And look, I mean, I'm not a collector of like the original comics because I find them inconvenient. I'm much happier with the trade paperback, right? So I like the whole graphic novel revolution. I was trying to remember this line recently when I was working on Boom, actually, because I wanted to write a similar sentiment. Death is the price we pay for progress. I couldn't figure out where I heard it. Turns out it was in the brain of Morbius. I mean, you think that was sure or something. It's just terrific. Well, listen, Moffat wrote some of the greatest lines for the Doctor ever, right? Things that I think are just so immensely important and true, well beyond Doctor Who. Like Capaldi's like final lines, like always try and be good, but never fail to be kind. That is not just the essence of Doctor Who, the essence of how to be a good person in the world, all right? And I feel like Doctor Who embraced the darkness, infusing it with sci-fi stories and the gothic dread and the monsters' fabulation. What's it? Fabulation. The show was naughty and gleeful. Yeah, you know why it was naughty and gleeful? Because you had very clever people, very good at their job, being able to do stuff. It was like playing jazz. Right, they were able to improvise. There was nothing gleeful in a way that it hadn't been before. I'm just thinking, what on earth is Chris Chibnall going to say? I love the poetry era, I still do, but it was a drearily communist at times. It was very earnest. If we band together, we can get rid of the bosses. Sure, Malcolm, and then there'll be a new bosses, and I'll just be as bad. Just this is why I like Hinchcliffe. But the reason why that worked is you balance it off with Terrence Dicks, who was much more conservative. But then Philip arrived, and suddenly it was, who cares about any of that? Let's just kill people in horrific ways. Kind of so. I think that's kind of fair. But not just kill people in horrific ways that he found horrific that was appropriate to show on TV at 5:30 on a Saturday night. It treats horror with such undisguised glee. No, I think that came more from Holmes. Like Holmes, they probably agreed fully in it, but Holmes loved the subversive use of horror. Right? It was subversive. It's so good at Tom Baker is so good at selling stuff. When I rewatch now, Tom is far straighter than I remember compared to Matt Smith and David Tennant. He's a very serious, actually. But I know because they now it's more working on a memory of what Doctor Who was rather than what Doctor Who is, right? And Doctor Who's a funny, quirky guy sometimes. He's very serious, but he does it with such underlying throbbing sense of joy and bored irony, and to a certain extent. And the dialogue, Marvel Stephen, astonishing. There was a wonderful bit of brilliance and macabre exposition in Ark in Space when the Doctor explained that we're absorbed knowledge from the people they've eaten. And that's all Doom's knowledge had been thoroughly digested, I'm afraid. Sarah says, don't make jokes like that. Don't make jokes like that, Doctor. And he replies, when I say I'm afraid, I'm not making jokes. That's true. What makes Philip's Doctor Who acceptable for early evening is the fact you're meant to enjoy it. Well, that's an interesting point, right? It's not meant to you're not meant to be, oh, you are meant to be scared, but it's also meant to be an enjoyable experience, fun. It's fun. It's a thrill ride. It's fun to be scared. Someone has one foot in a horror and the other one in the Generation game. Mad. See, Stephen Moffat he knows his Doctor Who. Yeah. One foot in Hammer horror, the other foot in the Generation game. It really does. With that sort of sitcom pace, it's funny, witty, but also sort of shivery. It's fun horror. Very fun horror. But, I mean, it's not that far away from Carry On Screaming. It really isn't. But then I'll argue that horror done right makes you laugh as much as it makes you jump. I agree with you completely. I've never liked these gross out Saw type of horror, right? Robert Holmes took hold of the idea. Horror was always been funny, because it makes you nervous, right? And these have always been children's stories. Again, Brothers Grimm, same thing. You don't make a story about a man who makes a monster man for adults, do you? Well, you do now, I guess. Also, I love that Tom Baker's Doctor knows he's on TV. He even talks to the camera once or twice. I know, but they need to. That was when it was getting a little out of control, right? And did it happen to the Hinchcliffe era? Look, even the sonic screwdriver can't get me out of this one. But I can't remember that happening in the Hinchcliffe era. Maybe it's going to give me an example. We never quite stop that. There's always an awareness about it all. About it all means it simply doesn't matter that the giant rat in Talons is a bit silly. I never actually found him that silly, quite frankly. I don't know. It just looked like a giant rat to me. Like in height, when I watched it when I was older, and it was like all kind of cuddly, but still, it doesn't matter that Lee Hen Shen Chang is a bit silly because have you noticed how crap his plan is? It doesn't. The crap plans are a staple of Doctor Who. Crap villain plans, isn't it? It just doesn't matter because the show is thoroughly enjoyable and riffing on those horror tropes. And you're not meant to take things like giant rats and mummies and Frankenstein's monsters seriously unless there's something genuinely wrong with you. Well, okay. When you become the showrunner, is it reassuring to know that someone a few decades prior absolutely nailed it, or is it daunting as hell? It must be daunting as hell. No, it only helps, he says. Okay, I'll take it back. It's terrifying but joyful to get to play in the Doctor Who stand, but hoping to make something as good as Philip. I mean, yeah, and again, people complain nobody saw Bubble Wrap at the time. I think this is awesome. This is really terrifying. That's really, really terrifying. But this is really terrifying. Something as good as Philip made, but you've got to hesitate. I think the Moffat era certainly hit it on a number of levels. I think things like Flatline, that could have been a Philip Hinchcliffe story. But I don't mean I was about to say was it? But you've also got to. He hesitates. I was about to say alter Doctor Who for the current moment. No, I don't think that's right. But I don't mean this idiot thing where you may where we're meant to reflect contemporary culture. Like the hell we know what contemporary culture is. Can you scream this at Russell over and over again? When I was reading my first series of Matt Smith series, Matt Smith's first series, I found myself leaning into scripts, leafing through books of scripts from Tom Baker's first season. And again, the shape of Tom Baker's first season, because it was supposed to have Terror of the Zygons at the end, right? So you had Robot, which was a contemporary Earth story. Then you're into outer space with Ark in Space. Then you got a kind of a weird, funky two-parter with Sontaran Experiment. Then the somewhat epic Genesis of the Daleks. And then Cybermen, you're back in space. And Terror of the Zygons, you're back in contemporary Earth. It's like that was supposed to be the shape of the season, right? Even though Terror of the Zygons got pushed off to next year. Tom Baker's first season, and I remember thinking we could hand this to Matt Caron and Arthur Devol today, and these scripts would still work. The same's true of Callan, by the way. If you can find it on YouTube, Callan still works today. Edward Woodward's spy show, fantastic. To be fair, Matt Karen Arthur in the Ark of Space would have been a beautiful thing. Equally, it could be Jodie Whittaker and say, no shit, fucking, what the fuck are you talking about? Oh, it keeps up, it's a woman. Oh, no, we better all do what Twitter tells us. Oh, fuck off, that was Twitter back in 2017. Jude, what the fuck, shit? Are you out your mind? Yes, he is. Okay, yes, he is. He's in the entertainment industry. These are terrific scripts. Yeah, but she's a shit actress. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a Bradley Walsh play all the roles, possibly. Except you're always trying. You can see Russell doing this now to add a layer of offensive modernity to it that feels slightly transgressive. Well, in this case, it derailed the show completely. You know, here's the thing. Modernity today, half the world, no, a shrinking minority of the world thinks it's stunning and brave and the best thing ever, while most of the world find it sick shit. Leave us alone. We're done with your weirdo insanity, or with your chicks with dicks constantly. We're done. We're done with you calling everybody a Nazi who doesn't agree with you. My dad thought Tom was too silly, really, too subversive, and far too young to be the Doctor. This was Doctor Who for young people. My dad didn't like that. Okay. I think Doctor Who should be for young people, but maybe young people who aren't, you know, not full of massive gender confusion. And it's still happening. People go to Doctor Who wearing a kilt. And the Doctor's wearing a kilt in a nightclub. How dare he? No, he can dare. It just failed. Right? That's the moment when the normal audience started to turn off and they didn't come back. Right? In dancing in a club, it would have been fine if it wasn't a gay dancing. Like everything about this era is about being queer. So I'm sorry. It's not a question of how dare it. It just didn't work. Objectively, it didn't work. It pulls viewers away. Right? That's called a failure, right? But it's no more transgressive than what the Doctor was doing half a century ago. Half a century ago, we knew that if you had a penis, you were a boy, right? We live in very, very fucked up times. How fucked up? Donald Trump just got massively elected to unfuck it up. That's how fucked up it is. And you know, this refusal to acknowledge that half the world thinks this stunning and brave progression is deeply damaging and evil to society. Again, not to be misconstrued as saying, I don't think trans people should be visible. I don't think gay people should be. I don't think black. No, none of that. I just don't think that it should be the vast majority on what's on our screen all the time. And that is right now. Yeah, you just want people to think. You just want people to think it is, and I wish we would got that, because it's this idea that modernity is accepted by everybody. It's not. It's by a small bubble that lives on Twitter. Most people don't accept the insanity that's going on, and that you can't see that is perhaps why that you've inserted it into Doctor Who, or Russell D. Davies says. So again, great understanding of Doctor Who, bad understanding of reality. Don't like seeing it, I wish people got that, because I don't like seeing Doctor Who involved in the culture wars. Well, you put him front and fucking center. I'm sorry, but making it a queer show, you put it front and center. Isn't obvious what Doctor Who is doing? It's trying to dress up this ancient, wonderful fairy tale. A funny man, a man in funny clothes, running around in a phone box that saves everybody, as if it's slightly dangerously modern. It's not. If that's what it was, we would like it, but it's not about how would you say, a man in funny clothes running around a phone. This is about a queer man in funny clothes running around telling queer stories in a phone box and saves everybody. Probably if they're queer. He's fighting goblins on an airship. I kind of like that. That's the only one I like, and it's brilliant. But it's important that you pretend to be transgressive. Philip did it, Robert Holmes did it, and we've all done it. But it's not. Again, do you want to be transgressive and that he's a minor attractive person? The mappers they're called, or pedophiles we used to call it, right? It's more than being transgressive to suggest to children that fundamentally denying the cornerstone of their identity is a healthy and good thing, right? Because they feel somewhat uncomfortable, and most people grow out of it if you just leave them alone, right? Yeah. Again, he's drunk the Kool-Aid about they just believe that it's all about hating trans, but it's not. It's not. It's about disagreeing fundamentally with your worldview. A thought strikes, Stephen. When you interview Philip, do you ask him about Robert Holmes? Do ask him about Robert Holmes, won't you? Because that's not that's how he look. Because how did he not become a showrunner? Robert Holmes would never be allowed to disappear today. He was a very, very gifted writer, and you've seen photographs of a formidable looking man. How the hell did he disappear? Why wasn't he taken aside and asked, Bob, do you want to? What do you want to do next? It's baffling. I was basically what I said earlier. Philip went on to do pretty well, but I don't think the industry was clued up as it is now. In a better world, Philip and Robert Holmes would have been asked to do. What do you boys want to do next? Name it. It's yours. Well, again, me and Moffat are agreeing there. Now we've heard the good, the bad, or the bad and the good, I should say. Now time for the ugly. Chris Chibnall is a bit younger than us, Stephen. Oh, I'm decades younger than them, he grinned. Only a decade, he clarified. So let's wait till you get to say something stupid before I can start ripping apart. Chris was the perfect age to be scared witless by Hinchcliffe who. God, yeah, I was 4 or 5 when Philip's stuff started. The prime age for being indoctrinated in Doctor Who, or forcing people to run screaming from it as you did. I was probably the prime target for Mary Whitehouse, worried that their lives would be destroyed. No, you just destroyed everybody else's life. Everybody else's. You just destroyed Doctor Who, I should say, by Hinchcliffe and Holmes. Since the mid-1960s, Christian Prothesire Whitehouse had been waging a campaign against indecency on British television. And, okay, I disagree with her then. I would probably... I agree with the... it's not indecent. Yeah, no, firstly, I think there should be public decency. I think the pride parades where you have, like, lots of people walking around stark bollock naked in front of children is sick. I'm sorry. I don't think that's an expression of hatred for gay people. Can gay people just put clothes on, like most normal gay people do? Right? Where was it? Jane Phillips, producer, she targeted Doctor Who for being too horrific, too brutal. In actual fact, she was so fundamentally, profoundly wrong. Because Philip Hinchcliffe just inspired me to get into a life of creativity. Fuck me, I'm agreeing with Mary Whitehouse again. Like, look, we might have got some excellent Doctor Who, but we also got Chris Chibnall from it. Oh, I don't know what to tell you. Oh, swings and roundabouts, baby. Although I do think she was wrong about disturbing children. But again, I think it says setting the children cutting their cock and ball their cock and balls off is a bad thing. Because Philip Hinchcliffe inspired me and contributed to the British industry, so she's absolutely, completely, utterly disproven. Why is it that the wokies always need, and it's a insane, rabid need. They need to be right about everything. They need, we got to be right, we got to be proved right. They hate being proved wrong. I think it's because they know they're wrong. He can draw a line then from the kid watching Hinchcliffe to wanting to be a TV writer. Well, again, it should have been a TV accountant. I think he would have been much happier. I think we ought to have been. Don't want to be a TV writer. showrunning 3 seasons of the 21st Century Doctor Who. Well, it's supposed to be 5 there, Chris. You said you had a 5-year plan. That changed to a 3-year plan when you were fired. I don't know. Is there a thread right through? Not just a thread. It was Ignition. So okay. So now I'm like, you're really making me on board for Mary Whitehouse right now. The show back then was incredibly addictive. The opposite to your era. And people like ran out, left it like they were, escaping the Twin Towers of 9/11. Predators jump out of buildings, jump out of windows rather than have to subject yourself to it. It didn't work out good. Showrunner, says Colin Archer. I totally agree. The show back then was incredibly addictive. Great cliffhangers. Yeah, nothing like what you did. Ambitious stories. Your stories were boring. Brilliant performances. Bradley Walsh and nobody else. Your performances were awful. High production values. It was scary. Okay, your production values were pretty good. Except Orphan 55. Fuck me, what was that about? But scary in the way that was thrilling. Nothing like your era. It wasn't like anything else on television. There were things that were nearly like it, but nothing as muscular. I mean, close thing with Blake Seven, I guess. The Saturday 5:45 between Basil Brush and the Generation Game. Yeah, it fitted. Again, the disposable nature of it really made a difference. For Saturday nights as a kid, I remember being a friend at a friend's birthday party, and the party stopped to watch Terror of the Zygons. Well, that's a good friend. Chris, what do you mean they stopped the party? You made everyone watch Terror of the Zygons? No, he chuckles. Yes. It was nothing to do with me. It was the power of the television. It just gets in your veins as a kid. Philip Hinchcliffe and Robert Holmes were our first dealers to an addictive narrative. So how did you not manage to replicate any of this in any way whatsoever? That was it. That we're done with Chris Chibnall. We're on to Philip Segal already. Okay, that was it. I mean, man, a few words. Thank God. Far too many words. What few words? Philip in his 80s, reflecting. So I'm told on what his legacy might be. Best TARDIS console room ever, and definitely it grew out of season 14. When it comes to contemplating his own Doctor Who legacy, Chris laughs. Not yet. Don't contemplate it. Perhaps he'll start thinking about it when he's almost 80. It'll still be shit then. Yeah, give me a moment, Ben. They're still sending me action figures. They're not making action figures your era, but I can understand why it's on Philip's mind. There's a big gap between the classic and the modern show. In some ways, they're worlds apart. In others, it's identical. Your era was not identical at all. Right? Again, everything post Capaldi, I see little to no creative connective tissue with anything before it. Where I see it being, look, the X-Men years were very, very, very contemporary, and I think somewhat out of the mold of Doctor Who because of that. And I think when he got into Tennant, it kind of like fused into shape. There's a real philosophy behind the era. It's very clear that what Philip wants to do, and he does it. He took it seriously, and that's not true of every era. Well, it's true. It had to have some internal authenticity. Again, which your era never did. It's got gothic moodiness about it. Your era never did. Horror influences. Yeah, okay, your era tried to do that, but again, you just fucked everything up because you're a talentless cunt. I wonder how many of that was planned, how much of that was planned, how much of that emerged as they were doing it. I think 70-30. 70% planned, 30% happenstance. You should find out. Please send Philip my best. Make it clear that he's not just held in the highest high regard. He's held in the highest regard. Well, that's good for you. In February 2018, Chris invited Philip to Rothlock Studios, the 2010s home Cardiff home. Yeah, well, look, we didn't know how awful you'll be then. 2018, was it airing in 2018? Yeah, I don't think we've seen it. Or maybe it was just after it went on. I sent a message from one television professional to another. Thank you for inspiring me as a kid. I'm here because of you. This is nice for him to do. If you ever want to come down to Cardiff, it'll be our honor. Now, is he trying to make a photo op? Or is this I'm going to take him on face value. I'm going to take Chris Chibnall on face value. I think he has genuine love and respect for Hinchcliffe. Yeah, nothing I'm reply, but he did. Okay, doink. Oh, God, Jodie's so awful. She was so awful in the role. So he visited 2019, recording the 2019 New Year special resolution. Resolution of the Dalek. No, that was the first one. God, shit. Oh, and she was so awful in this. I really wanted to meet him and Miss Chris because, to my memory, there are 1,000 interviews with Philip. I mean, the Matthew Sweet one is on the, was it season 14 box set? I'm not sure which box set, but it's freaking good, right? It really goes in detail. There aren't 1,000. I lament there aren't more. I think there's one in Doctor Who Magazine Winter Special, uploaded in 83. But when was the last time Doctor Who Magazine ran a proper in-depth chat with Philip? That's slightly a man of mystery. Again, I've never felt he's a man of mystery. That's like, I've seen it again because the DVD range, he's basically all over his stories. I've never felt he's a man of mystery, right? There are memoirs and diaries from other producers, but not so much from Philip. He talked about this extensively. And there's sort of black hole of information around what it was really like. I disagree completely. I really disagree. So it was fun to be able to take him around. Go, this is how we make the show today. We show him Russia Demons of Ponto. Well, don't do. Well, at least you can say the Russians. I couldn't tell they were shit. I mean, we probably could. And then on studio floor for the sewer set of resolution. The Dalek mutant on the wall in that scene was very good. Right? I really want to compliment things that are good. And on to TARDIS Sue. Jodie showed him how she flies it. Oh, it gives up. Oh, pretty little puddles that I get custard cream. Oh, because it's not real, like. Then Pete McTeague, who'd written 2018's Command, took him out to dinner. Why don't you take him out to dinner? Okay, Pete McTeague, you've done us proud with Happiness Patrol. I'm not going to give you shit because you did a very good job with Happiness Patrol. I haven't even got to Greatest Show yet or Silver Nemesis, God help us. But it wasn't great for him. It was telling us how Robert Holmes used to ring him up at the end of part 3 going, how do I sort out part 4? It's a nightmare. I got to keep that in mind when I watch another Hinchcliffe Holmes story. Is it still the same? Asked Philip. He said, yeah, except we don't make it good. I recently emailed him to explain why we canonize him and the others as the Doctors in the Timeless Show. No, you decanonized your era, right? You decanonized your era by doing that. He's referring to the 8 pre-Hartnell Doctors portrayed in 76. By BBC's are glimpsed in Brain and Morbius, the mind-bending duo set in 2020 finale. The impetus of the Timeless Style storyline was to make the Doctor just make sense of the Doctor's past. You literally tore it apart, but it makes so much less sense now, right? It makes so much less sense now. No, the impetus of the Timeless Child was to make the Doctor less white and male. Let's be honest. That was it. And don't fucking bullshit and gaslight and bullshit us. We all know that was the impetus to make the character less white and less male, right? Even other BBC staff glimpse of the brain of Morbius, blah 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 blah. It wasn't driven by canonizing Philip, but it was a nice grace. It didn't do that, mate. I'm sorry. Just as January 6, 2020 was an insurrection, the Timeless Child was not canon. How happy was Chris when he realized that he could reignite the Morbius Doctors debate of setting of fans in 76? What do you want me to say? I was delighted and skipped through the fields all that day. I just thought, Oh, that's nice. We can use that because it proves the thesis that there were doctors before Hartnell. And yeah, fuck Doctor Who in the arse by doing it. Man, you royally fucked Doctor Who in the arse, which actually would be fine when by the time you got to Shooty, who quite liked doing things like that. And I'm not saying in the private life, his doctor is the first one who really wanted to be fucked in the arse by somebody on screen. Okay, we haven't had that before. I don't think that's modernity. I think that's degeneracy. Was he happy? He was glad. He couldn't give two shits, mate. They may be email pals, but they may not. What's the burning question that Chris still has about the man of mystery? I've always been curious about the day-to-day he considers. What was the relationship with Robert Holmes? Like two people who share tastes and interests of working together on a job, creatively on a job and doing a good job. I mean, like, look at this. It's so shit. She was so shit as a doctor. I want to know about the daily pressures. How do they make the budget work? Oh, God. So you want to know all the boring shit. How does anybody make the budget works? Chris Smile says it all. Because all of us have tried in different ways. Everyone's looking for the code, and there isn't a code. That's just a thing. Because Doctor Who, well, you tried just throwing money at it and making less episodes. That hasn't really helped. Because Doctor Who is a show that doesn't make sense, and it's basically unproducible. Okay, only by you. Everybody managed until you came along, right? You were shit. And everybody keeps producing it. Fine. Oh, God, let's scrape that off. Now, one of my favorite producers, Philip Segal. I like the TV movie. And I think the TV movie vibe straddles Hinchcliffe Holmes and Barry Lett's Terrence Dicks. It's a bit more. It's a bit less subversive. Well, it's pretty subversive at the time. Philip David Segal, the TV producer who spearheaded Doctor Who's one night only 90s revival, described go back. Describes his predecessor Philip as the absolute the best. I am always interested in Philip Segal's take on Doctor Who. It is interesting. Was the Segal's attempt to resurrect the 6.5 year show, 6.5 year after it ultimately as untimely left BBC? Well, I was trying to resurrect it for like 4 or 5 of those years, wasn't he? I don't know, 6.5 years after the untimely BBC death. Without the Hinchcliffe years, I wouldn't have been brave enough to take in the direction I took it. It was an inspiration to me. I can see some DNA. I mean, especially with the Master, it feels like the Hinchcliffe Holmes years was definitely a heavy condiment on his era, right? Jonathan, BBC, Universal, Fox, and Doctor Who movie shot in Toronto, set in San Francisco, was Segal's gambit to pave the way for a full-fledged TV series. Why has Big Finish not produced a faux 1990s TV series on audio of McGann? That would be a really fun way to go. It wasn't to be. Nonetheless, it breathed new life into Doctor Who franchise, propelling Doctor Who through the next 9 years of comics, novel, audio adventures until Rusty Davis triumphed. That's a very good point. And so I really think the 96 movie was excellent. By the way, look up the Doctor Who 4K. What's it called again? Hang on. Doctor Who 4K project. Find it. Here we go. Patreon. We go up to here because they got you can get it on 4K. You just got to sign on to the here we go. Doink. Let me just share that. You just got to sign on to support this guy's Patreon. It's like $3 a month, and it's fantastic. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, having that on 4K, it really makes it so much more contemporary, right? Because you can see, because it works on your big screen TV. It's really crazy, where it didn't on its standard def. So the 4K upgrade is excellent. Where I'm up to. In December 96, Philip Segal gave his final Until Now Doctor Who magazine interview, telling then Gary Gillett, I do firmly believe Doctor Who's day is yet to come. He was right. It deserves to be loved by the world over. Turns out he was onto something. What a crazy time, reflects Seagulls. Today, zooming in from his hobby workshop in California. Since retiring from television in 2017, he's found his true calling, model building. He has a YouTube channel called The Spruce Verse, which includes some. Can we click on this? Oh, let's see what he's made. Model build. What models he made? He's making the Enterprise D. These are like, okay, they're not scratch built. Man, these are big models. What's this? Dalek. What's this? Build a cutaway Dalek from Doctor Who. How long is that video, man? Like an hour long? Yeah, 1 second. What are you selling me? So many ads. I want the skip. I just want to get to the end of the video to see what it is he made. Cat food. Okay, fine. By the way, my cat got out. I hope she comes back. Okay, fine. So let's have a look. Let's see what he's building. And I think we see the final thing. That's interesting. What did he make? Did he scratch build that, you think? Let's go from early on. What's he working from? Is he working from a kit? I don't know what this is he's working from. Whatever. It's relatively interesting. Close that down. There you go. That's my life now. Well, besides being a new grandfather, it was my lifelong dream to get out of the business one day and do this full time. Well, that's nice. I'm glad he's met his dream. Right? That sounds nice. What am I up to? Philip began negotiating the rights of Doctor Who. He won't remember me, but I met Philip Hinchcliffe. We talked a lot because I reached out to him, to as many of the old producers as I could, to get a sense of their approaches and the politics of BBC. Man, was Jonathan Turner dead at the time? Because he got really screwed by the BBC. But boy, and in his day, he knew how to handle the politics. Smart and resourceful move. A respectful move. Well, I cared. I wanted to remain honest and true to mythology. I think he did that. I like the Eric Roberts Master, right? I think he did that. I didn't want to do what J.J. Abrams did with Star Trek, make it into Star Wars, and go off into my own universe. To me, that was a height of arrogance. So he left Amblin in 95, but Spielberg allowed him to take the Doctor Who project with him as a gift. The TV movie, when it finally materialized, there we go. Yeah, hang on. Comparing these two console rooms, they're very similar, aren't they? It wore a Hinchcliffean influence on a very velvet frock coat sleeve. I see. To me, I thought that was like Doctor Who pastiche rather than their influence. But yeah, I guess so. When I bought it back in '96, my sweet spot was the 18 to 35 audience. I wasn't pandering to kids like Philip. It's a shame because Doctor Who really is best when it's pandering to kids. My favorite time with Doctor Who is watching it with my kids, right? And we're all enjoying it together. Matt Smith was really the best at that. Oh, God, it was it was safe to be scared, right? Oh, man, Matt Smith watching with my kids when they were little, fucking awesome. So my favorite times of my life, genuinely. It really is some of the happiest times of my life, right? We were all on the couch together. Oh, it's lovely. It really was lovely. I wonder if my kids will watch Doctor Who with their kids, right? Because they have very good memories of that. Now I'm trying to think, what on earth are my kids going to be like with their kids? I'm up to like Philip. I looked through the lens of what would bring an audience? In the 1970s, the horror genre was having a renaissance, and he jumped on that. Look at sort of like Talons of Weng-Chiang. You can see his vision, dropping the Doctor into a world. You really feel the time travel. You feel the place. I guess that's true. I mean, I certainly it felt kind of like millennial San Francisco. Philip was taking you into the world, into the sewers of Victorian London. He was giving you an adventure. That's what he tried to do. The TV movie is $1 million TARDIS set inspired by Captain Nemo's submarine Nautilus. There's a Nautilus TV show on. I've really got no interest to watch it. 20 Leagues Under the Sea. It feels very like something Hinchcliffe would have pushed for had he had the budget. Season 14's second TARDIS Control, but designed by Barry Newby. Put it in 76. It was a Jules Verne style. Yeah, and boy, did it work. Right? They only got rid of it because the walls warped, right? Yes, but I had to. But keep in mind, it was a Canadian crew. He reminds me. Most of them didn't know Doctor Who, so they got. So I got someone to look at the Hinchcliffe era. We jump between that and the poetry. Here, look, here's the logo. Look, honestly, I think the poetry logo really worked for the 96 movie. So, born in Southend, blah, blah, blah. Grandfather showed me an unearthly child, first episode, and Doctor Who was an incredible. Same with all of us. After emigrating to America in 72, he caught John Pertwee in syndication, very much part of his childhood. And then along came Tom Baker. I love spending time with the Doctor. This guy, but I always thought it was fascinating in the Leonard Nimoy movie that was never made. That Tom Baker was supposed to be a key to time kind of thing, and Tom Baker was going to appear in it. So I just find that so bizarre. Then along came Tom Baker. I couldn't get enough of him. I love spending time with the Doctor. His character became part of my soul. I felt Philip Hinchcliffe really understood him, the Doctor's angst, and the lives he led. 20 years later, Philip S. Segal was casting Eighth Doctor, Liverpool Paul McGann, who was really his only choice. Right, I've shown you I showed on the channel before the John Sessions audition and what's his name? Slattery. What's his first name? Can't remember. Tony Slattery, right? I think I've seen a couple others. Did he? I used to have this really good hardback book called Doctor Who Regeneration, but I ended up selling it because I was never reading it. But that had pictures of all the different people who auditioned. Did he have in mind what worked for the Fourth Doctor? Liverpool actor Tom Baker, much like Paul McGann, born in Liverpool. Absolutely, what Tom Baker brought to was extraordinary. Some of his most talented actors are out of their minds. Well, he wanted this other guy. McGann was very much Alan Yentob's insistence, right? They had a whole issue on it. This guy who was thinking in an episode of Seinfeld they wanted, and having McGann was good. But again, that was Alan Yentob. That wasn't Philip Hinchcliffe, Philip Segal at all. They have something that connects to the audience. I needed someone like that, and there are a few actors greater than Paul. Again, you wanted another bloke. Can I find? Hang on a second. Let's do if we go to Doctor Who magazine. He was on the front cover. Let's see if I can find it. Doink. No. I don't. I'm already reading that. Doctor Who. Oh, this is just Doctor Who magazine. Hang on. Let's see if I can see it. Man, well, it was a while ago then. And maybe it was on the front cover. Was it during the Jodie years? It's a great Dragonfly cover. Oh, God. Every time I see Jodie, I'm like, oh, God, just piss off Jodie. No. Okay, it must have not been on the front cover. I guess not. Hang on, let me see if I... It was like a year or so. It was before Shooty showed up. Police of Jury, Face of Evil. We love Sarah Jane. Oh, I wish I could remember who it was. Oh, Geordie. No. I'm trying to see if there's any mention on the TV movie on the cover. I can't find him. Oh, this is just annoying now. Oh, God. Again, every time I see... Oh, wait a minute. Eighth Wonder. Maybe it's this one. Maybe it's this one. Read from the start. How? Oh, there we go. 18. Harry van Gorkum. That's the guy. That's the person who he chose. Yeah, this is a guy who was. Oh, look at this. This is convenient. This is the guy what they wanted as a doctor, right? This guy Harry. Did I have a picture of him at the time? Oh, there he is. Yeah, I can see why they like that look, and he thought it was perfect, right? But went to McGann. Okay, they got all the people who we got down there. Actors auditioned to play the Doctor. They included Richard Hope, Mark McGann, Christopher Bowen, Paul Brown, Christian Burgess, Liam Cunningham. That would have been interesting, Liam Cunningham. I like him. Andrew Bicknell, Tony Slattery, John Sessions, and Rob Hayland. Anyway, where are we up to? There you go. So, yeah, stop saying, McGann, totally my idea. It totally wasn't. At the time, did Helming the TV movie feel the same, like the same job Philip Hinchcliffe done? It did, even though we didn't get a chance to do a series. I experienced all the insanity of producing and working with the BBC. It's probably a lot more insane now, mate. A lot more insane now. Fortunately, Ali Enter was my mentor. He would personally simply responsible for putting up with my BS. I drove him crazy. Back then, you have to understand, BBC were sick of Doctor Who. Wow, 96. I thought they got over it by then. They didn't want to hear it again. They wanted to spend a penny on it. Their commissioners and executives at the time hated it, but Alan did not. And it was proved right. It had got great ratings, right? He thought it had life in it, but he believed in what I was trying to do. But it was tough. Had McGann spawned a TV series, Philip Segal's plans were ambitious. They included remaking classics from childhood, The Daemons, Sea Devils, retitled The Demons Within, set in Massachusetts, The Depths, set in Louisiana. Would he have remade the Hinchcliffe stories too? He said, definitely into Blaine and Morbius was Frankenstein. Fascinating stuff. Hand of Fear was out the Hammer world. I mean, yeah, it's merger with Hammer horror. Fantastic, right? There was so much fodder there we could have built on Philip's vision. He aimed for better design, better effects, and had the means to actually do it. Well, again, no, I think he was able to motivate the people he had working for him, which he got assigned to him, I believe, to do a great job. And that's what a good producer does. I went in the first year or two to explore the world that had been set up by Hinchcliffe, not the politics of Gallifrey, what the Doctor was up against, and that was low-hanging fruit. The 76 Deadly Assassin divided fandom. Segal's Eighth Doctor might have done the same. But you've got to be bold and fearless. I do agree with that. It's just like up to a point, right? Yeah, like up to here. This is the point where you're being too bold and too fearless, and you're producing shite, right? Yeah, let me just. Where is this? Got to go over to this folder and go down here. Where is it? Doing. This is where you've gone beyond bold and fearless. And you're into degenerate, right? You've got to be able to tell this thing got bold and fearless and degenerate. And it's not that easy. Apparently for them. Fine. The head writer was emboldened to take those kind of risks. He and Robert Owens were a perfect package, I agree. But I don't think the BBC appreciated the two of them or what they were trying to do. No, they didn't. They were so far ahead of the time and so far ahead of BBC. The BBC, bless their hearts, felt the show was too dark and violent. They was fine until Mary Whitehouse had a shit about it. And they pushed Philip out at the end. They got rid of him. That was the tipping point of Doctor Who. It started to become more a caricature after Hinchcliffe left. That's a really good point. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a lot of what John Nathan Turner did, but yeah, I don't think it really found its own. Did it ever find its identity again? Or did it stay like a pastiche of itself? I think to a certain extent it did, didn't it? Right? It really did. That was the tipping point when it stopped being about a guy going around in time and space and started being about Doctor Who. I think Tom Baker, yeah, that's a really interesting point. As a 13-year-old in 96, I loved, he was 13 in 96, blimey. That was, how old are you now? It's 96, 2006, 2016. That's 28 years later. 28 plus 13 is 38, 41. Oh, that's Ben Cook is 40. 41 and nothing to show for it. It was hard to know that, so thank you, Philip Beans. And the scary parts were my favorites, I confess. I like the snaky master jumping down the throats of the... That was good, I agree with you. See, look, he knows how to write an article, write an interview. Jumping down the throat of paramedic Bruce as he slept. As he slept was very worthy of Hinchcliffe Holmes. Yeah, all that feels a little bit more Barry Letts to me. Doing the most macabre. Can you ever terrify kids too much? No, Philip states firmly. You can try to use good common sense, but taste or a case incredible. I work for Spielberg. You used to think make something credible, then you can make it incredible. Yeah, I think that's a very good point. Make something credible, then you can make it incredible. Steven Spielberg knows what he's talking about. By the way, I remember I was in LA about 10 years ago. Great vacation there. We went to Disney. Oh, yeah, we had a great time. I went to Steven Spielberg's mother's restaurant. It's really good. Oh, sadly, no longer around. I'm probably not around anymore. I mean, she passed away a while ago. In 96, kids were sophisticated. Look at the video games they were already. Everyone was shooting each other with machine guns and blowing people's heads off. Yeah, that was Doom. I used to love that, right? When you got your head blown off, you saw your own head being blown off on Doom. If you consider that this alien doctor had been traveling backwards or forwards in time, he comes from another universe. You know, it's not Willy Wonka. It's not even that. Even that was dark. But Doctor Who isn't candy bars and candy floss. There's a terrifying universe out there. Fair point. I'd say I found this quite an interesting article. It had some comic relief. It had Chris Chibnall being clueless, Stephen Moffat knowing exactly what he's talking about, and the horror of Rusty Davis. Oh, how sad how things have fallen. What can I tell you? My name's Tzvi Lebetkin, the Rabbi from another planet. Please like, share, and subscribe, and ring that little bell. Ring the little bell so you're notified when new videos drop.